This episode of Let's Talk Natural Medicine is brought to you by BioGland MedLab, proud platinum partners of ATMS. Built on 50 plus years of healthcare experience and nutritional science, BioGland MedLab delivers practitioner-only formulas, trusted by practitioners, loved by families. Welcome back to Let's Talk Natural Medicine. We're up to episode 9 now, which is so exciting. And this is brought to you by the Australian Traditional Medicine Society. I'm your host, Natalie Hume, and today we're addressing a massive topic, stress. And stress affects us all, and there's massive amounts of chronic stress around at the moment, and nearly half of the adults worldwide are experiencing chronic stress. The good news is, though, natural medicine and lifestyle strategies can really support us and help us managing stress and bringing more calm into our lives. Today's guest is Tracey Hogan, who is a naturopath, homeopath, nutritionist, herbalist, and clinical hypnotherapist. Tracey's going to guide us through the best natural ways to manage stress, find balance, and thank you so much for joining us today, Tracey.
Thank you, Natalie. I'm looking forward to sharing these practical and effective stress management strategies. And as you said, it's a massive topic.
It is huge, and we're really seeing it growing, I guess, in the last few years as well. So let's start with maybe giving us a bit of an explanation of how do the effects of stress have on our health and our well-being?
Okay, so let's talk about how stress happens first in the body. You know, as we are part of the animal kingdom, and so it's a natural and normal phenomenon, you know, to help keep us safe from danger. And what happens during a stressful event is that our body kind of takes over because the brain registers, oh, I'm in danger. And so, you know, we'll get sweaty palms, our mouth gets dry, our pupils dilate, and our muscles contract, you know, to be ready to fight or flight, and our digestion slows down. So that's what happens when there's like an immediate stress. And that's because of our nervous system, and that's comprised of two parts, sympathetic and parasympathetic. And our bodies are so well equipped to keep us out of danger that when the brain thinks that there's something coming to attack us, our sympathetic kicks in, getting us ready to fight or flee. And so you can think of that like your body being in sympathy to what's happening around us. And what happens is, you know, are we going to fight? Are we going to run? And then that's normally like just a quick action kind of thing. And then something called our parasympathetic nervous system will kick in. What that means, if you think about the word para, that means beyond, like the word parachute. So when you're thrown out of a plane, it's something that breaks our fall and helps us land safely on the ground. So para is to protect and shoot means to fall. So the parasympathy helps slow everything back down again so that we can come back down to ground. So that's what happens with stress. And if there's a multitude of stresses coming at you, your brain will tell you that you need to be constantly on guard. And over time, that can lead to so many conditions or dis-ease states.
And so I guess, why is it so important? Obviously, we don't want to be in this fight flight, as you said, but why is it important to have strategies to help to manage stress and this stress response?
Well, we're not fighting, you know, animals from the animal kingdom anymore. The way that we look at stress now can be something as someone pulling out in front of you in traffic. There could be a lot of stress at work. There could be stressful family situations. There can be a stressful event, you know, like getting married, buying a house, someone passing away in the family, and they can accumulate over time. So it's important to learn how to manage those events, particularly if they're cumulative, so it doesn't become chronic stress.
Absolutely. And I guess you, as a natural medicine practitioner, you have so many wonderful modalities behind you. What inspired you to focus on naturopathy, nutrition, but really focus on stress management and the positive changes you've seen, obviously, going down this path with your patients as well.
Yeah, so many years ago now, because I've been in complementary medicine for over 30 years, my lived experience started when I was a little tiny child. So I grew up in a home that was quite violent, very stressful, and really neglectful. So that was what I knew. And then fast forward, I was bullied at school, and then I had a marriage breakdown. So I was bringing up two young children, and the marriage was quite abusive as well. And I was working 3 jobs at times to try and, and sometimes in toxic work situations until burnout. So I really lived a life. But interestingly enough, like, my story is not unlike many other people. And about 12 years ago, I switched to, rather than generalized practice, more towards stress and burnout and recovering from really quite toxic situations. And from what I've seen from many of my patients that I've worked with, they'll have physical symptoms and they won't connect the dots that it's related to long-term stress, or that stress can be underlying a lot of different conditions. And stress affects every organ system in the body, and it's generally connected by the vagus nerve that runs from the brain to the different organs. So that can it sends messages to and from, like, the back of the palate, the heart. It helps to regulate our blood pressure, the liver, the digestive system. And some people will come in and say, yeah, I've got a bit of stress, but what I'm trying to manage is my irritable bowel syndrome. And with them not recognizing that the irritable bowel syndrome is a consequence of their long-term stress. So it's really interesting. Complementary medicine has the tools. It's a whole body system. So it looks at everything that's going on, not just the presenting symptoms that will come in and with a person just saying, I've got digestive upsets, or my skin's playing up. I'm finding it difficult to breathe at times. I'm generally anxious, but I really want to fix whatever else is going on. And so with complementary medicine, as I said, we look at the whole picture and everything that's going on, like the diet and the lifestyle, and also just day-to-day living and how that's managed, and the different things that you might do to manage that might be actually inadvertently contributing to your stress levels.
That's so interesting. And you mentioned there a little bit about the vagus nerve, which I think might come into our next point. Let's maybe discuss some lifestyle habits that we can do ourselves every day to reduce stress. What are your top recommendations?
Oh, okay. There's a few. The first thing that's really important is learning to breathe. So what happens when someone is stressed or anxious, they might have really tight muscles up here because they're always hunched up all the time. And so they might be breathing up here and not breathing down in their diaphragm. So one of the first things that I generally recommend, particularly if that's what's happening with them as part of their stress picture, is taking 3 or 4 deep breaths at night when they go to bed, and then again when they wake up in the morning. And then once they've got a handle on that, because if you've been breathing up like here for a while, or shallow breathing, which is what happens as part of the stress response, that can be a bit hard to do. So once they've eased into that and they're able to do that, then we start, breathe in for 4 and then breathe out for 6. And that's breathe in for 4 counts and breathe out for 6 counts. So that's one of the that's one of the top things that you can do, which is inexpensive, and it helps to relax the body. One of the other important things is to get out into nature. So even if it's just a brief walk, giving yourself 20 minutes every day, if you can, to unplug from everything that's happening. And that's also a really good start. Sharing the load. So sometimes, when we're stressed and we're under a lot of pressure, or we're thinking that we're not coping very well, some people feel a little bit ashamed of not being able to cope, like, Billy Bob down the road, but Billy Bob down the road's probably stressed as well. So, find someone to talk to, whether it's friends, your tribe, your close personal people, a talk therapist. Talk therapy can be fantastic. It's really important that you're seen and that you're heard when you're undergoing stressful situations. That's imperative that you do that. Another lifestyle habit is to do a digital detox. So set an alarm on your device to give yourself a break from all the information that's constantly coming at you, and it's coming at all of us all the time now. So if you're at work, what you can do is only check your emails a few times a day, rather than every time one pops up. It breaks your concentration, and that adds to stress. So multitasking under tight deadlines increases your stress levels. There's this great book called Stolen Focus, and it talks about that and how that is contributing to society's stress levels as a whole. Regular exercise is a good way to get yourself back into your body and out of your head, because what's happening, you're always thinking, overthinking, and your thoughts run a million miles an hour, and then you can't sleep because you're thinking about everything that's going on, and that's where the deep breathing can come in. So this is what we talk about when we look at a whole body approach to managing stress. Another thing is to find your passion. So do a little bit of what you love wherever you can, whether it's a hobby or dancing or gardening or painting or writing, that can be a really good stress release in itself. And it stops you from that constant, that overthinking, which could lead to chronic stress. And when I mentioned writing, that leads me to journaling. So writing in a journal is great, because it allows you to lay down your thoughts, so you can see where the stress is coming from. And there's a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, and what she recommends is morning pages. So after you've had your deep breaths in the morning, before you get up, it's a good idea to just jot things down, and it's called morning pages, and you write everything down, and it's just any random thought that comes to your mind, and over time that can lead you to what might be causing the stress, what might be blocking you, what the real issue is. And that's a real journey of discovery, particularly if you're stressed but you don't really know what the cause is. So there's a few, around sleep as well. Before you get ready to go to sleep, get the lights down low, because bright lights interfere with, our day and night, our circadian rhythms, and limiting screen exposure on your devices at night, because that's when we should be getting ready to relax and sleep. And that's really imperative to trying to get a good night, or getting a good night's sleep. And blue light can interfere from your devices, can interfere with all that. And this time of year too, people sometimes have trouble sleeping, because they don't realize that they might need another layer on the bed or another layer on themselves, because it's getting cold, and being cold doesn't make for good sleep. So even like a little a hot chamomile tea before bed or something like that's good as well. And then reducing alcohol, caffeine, processed foods. You know, if it comes in a plastic package and it's not in its original form, it might not be the healthiest option for you. And, you know, what you put into your body is fuel for your body. And so if you're not putting the right amounts of things in or right amounts of nutrients in there, then that can contribute to stress levels as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love all those tips, especially that digital detox. I think that resonates with probably so many, that we are so connected all the time. One tip I do, actually put my phone now in grayscale at night time, which is actually reduces your use and you wanting to actually pick up the phone as well. So that's fantastic. Thank you for all those. And this leads us, you're talking a little bit about diet there. So I'd like to maybe address that a little bit more, but also go into specific maybe herbs. And you did mention chamomile tea, or any nutrients or supplements that you'd recommend to help us manage stress naturally.
There's so many. That's what's so that's what's so good about natural
Let's
medicine.
give us your top few.
Like where do you start? I think that at the top of the list for me would have to be magnesium.
Yes.
And the reason why is because it runs over 300 processes in the body, but also magnesium, when you're under constant fight or flight, there's this cycle of magnesium where you actually need magnesium to relax your muscles and relax the nervous system. But our body is a bit strange in this way. It excretes it out at the time when you need it, because you think you're in fight or flight. And so supplementing with magnesium is always a good idea, because through the vagus nerve and how that works, if your body says, I'm in danger, there's something called another mineral called calcium, and there's a process by which magnesium can block the calcium. So, you know, you've got muscle constriction going on and you want muscle relaxation. So magnesium is probably one of my top nutrients to recommend, or minerals to recommend. Another one is theanine. That's one of my favorite stopgaps to help reduce stress. With some of the herbs, which I'll talk about in a minute, they can take a little while to work. It depends on the individual. Some people, they work, you know, straight away. Some people, it can take a little bit longer to work, whereas theanine can work. I've seen some parts of the literature that will say 20 minutes, and I've seen some parts of the literature which says, you know, it reaches plasma levels within 3 hours. So if you've got, you know, a high pressure meeting at work or something like that, you could take some theanine, and what that does is that gives you clarity in how it works. Well, theanine, it's a non-protein amino, it's an amino acid, and how it works, you've got different brain waves in your brain. So you've got alpha, beta, delta and theta, and when you're stressed or when you're highly engaged, your brain waves generally run more at beta. And then once you get into a bit more of a stressful situation, there's a second level of beta. And then when you're under chronic stress, there's a third level of beta. So it's like this high stress that continues. And then what theanine does, there's another brain wave called an alpha wave. And alpha brain waves are what happens when, you know, you go for a walk and you've solved a problem, you're in the shower and you've got that problem that, you know, you're thinking about something and it comes to you and you go, aha. And that's because you've allowed yourself to get into your alpha brain waves. And the alpha brain waves are what's called a relaxed alert state. So that's the state also of creativity. And it's also the state that we get into with meditation. Theta brainwaves are the next level down. You know, that's where we go with clinical hypnotherapy, and then delta waves are the deep sleep waves. So if you're up in high beta all the time, it's really hard to get yourself down to alpha to be into a relaxed state, and then theta, and then delta for a good night's sleep. So theanine is not only recommended, during stressful times, it's also recommended, as part of a sleep program as well. So that's one of my all-time favorites. Ashwagandha, which is it's a traditional Ayurvedic or traditional Indian system of medicine herb, and it's an adaptogen. So what an adaptogen is in Western herbal medicine is it helps the body to adapt to stress better. So it helps the body to come back to a state of equilibrium or homeostasis, and that works really well. And I know a lot of people get some really, really good results with ashwagandha. Lemon balm is another herb that's been trialed for mild anxiety, and it's really good to put into a sleep formulation, to help calm and soothe. Even as well as herb supplements and foods. I'm just going to pop in here because I know that there are supplements with lavender in there, but lavender essential oil as well can be very calming, and you can pop it on topically. Chamomile, both as a herb and herbal medicine and a tea. Chamomile, particularly for children, is fabulous. When you've got those little kids that just won't settle down at night to go to sleep, or they've got that nervous tummy, because chamomile has a secondary bitter action which helps with their digestion as well. So if they're not digesting their food properly and they've got a little bit of stress going on at school, that's a really good option too. Tulsi tea or holy basil is fabulous. If we get to vitamins, B vitamins. So a good B vitamin supplement is really important because we don't always get the right amount of B vitamins, or minerals for that matter, in our diets. And B vitamins run energy production in the body. So if you're stressed and you run down and you're exhausted and you're running on empty, then a good B vitamin is really important to incorporate into your overall routine. Incorporating oats, if you can tolerate them, having porridge in the morning is good. It's good fiber, and oats are really good for the central nervous system as well. As I mentioned before, having a look at what you're fueling your body with. So if you're living on caffeine and biscuits, that might not be helpful. I'll never forget a lady, it was, how long ago? Probably about 27 years ago now. It was a long time ago. And just, as part of your general history taking, and you're asking about diet and what they eat and drink. This lady said to me, "If you cut me, I bleed caffeine." And I've never ever forgotten that comment. And she, from the moment she got up to the moment she went to bed, she had a coffee in her hand, and that was significantly contributing to her fatigue and burnout. So, cutting back on the caffeine where you can, which is really, really good. Also, if fatigue is part of your stress, it's a good idea to go and get a blood test from your GP, because it could be due to low iron. So you could take an iron supplement. It could be a condition like Epstein-Barr virus or glandular fever, and there are some good complementary medicines that can support you while you heal through that journey. Low vitamin D can contribute to low mood, and that can contribute to stress. And low B12 if you're a vegetarian and have absorption issues in the gut. And, a good probiotic. So a good probiotic can help keep your digestive system and your immunity firing well. And there's so many more, Natalie, but I think that's probably a really good start.
That's an amazing start, and such a great way to unpack it from like, I love that L-theanine and going through the brain waves to really giving everyone who's listening or watching great strategies. And definitely, as we're looking, it's not just a one thing fix all, right? It really is working with your natural health care practitioner to really find the best steps and the best protocols to suit you. So thank you so much, Tracey, because you've really just given us such a beautiful breadth of what stress is doing in the body, but what we can also do to help to reduce our stress and find that inner calm. So thank you again for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to this episode of Let's Talk Natural Medicine. As I mentioned, if you want to see a qualified practitioner, please do go to the ATMS website, atms.com.au, and click on Find a Practitioner so you can find an accredited practitioner to help to support you in your wellbeing journey. Let's wrap up though. We're going to have some 3 top wins for stress and helping us to manage stress. So maybe practice a few minutes each day of mindful breathing. Include calming herbal teas like chamomile, or even, as we said, going for short walks or getting outside, getting to enjoy the sunshine. So until next time, stay naturally well. Join us again by following us for more uplifting discussions on natural medicine and holistic well-being. And if today left you inspired, share the love with a 5-star review. It helps others on their wellness journey find us too.